will join us as Is that the 30-second clock you got me on?
You should be all set now.
All good?
All good.
Good. Well, good afternoon, everyone. You've heard the conversation while you've been sitting here, and hopefully you know my name is Rick Jennings. I'm the vice chair of SACOG this year and proud to be so, and also chair of this working group, which I'm really pleased to do so and take this opportunity to work with each one of you as we do this important work. And I just want to thank you for joining us on this Friday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right before the holiday. I thank you for joining us. And before we jump into the business of the day and introductions, we have to do some housekeeping. So I'm going to ask our clerk to take the roll and share any notes and directions that we need to have today. So Lynette, would you take the roll and share any updates that you have?
Great, thank you, welcome. Wanted to just cover a couple of housekeeping points, and that is if you would like to make a comment, if you could please use the raise hand feature here in Zoom. You should see that on your screen. If you can't see it, please feel free to send me a chat and I can help guide you through that. We also ask that if you are not speaking, if you could please mute your device, just so that we don't pick up any background noise. And also, as you heard at the start of the meeting, this meeting is being recorded. I'll go ahead and take roll now. I'll start with our SACOG board members. Chair Jennings.
Here.
Vice Chair Frericks.
Here.
Director Clark-Kretz. I don't see her, absent. Director Gallardo.
I'm here.
Director Middleton.
Here.
Director Gog.
Yes.
Director Chenier.
Here.
Director Guerrero.
Here.
Director Zaragoza.
Here.
Director Soon. Absent. All right, moving over to our public members. And if I mispronounce your name, if you could please correct me, because we want to make sure we get that right. Avital Barnea.
Hi, I'm here. It's Avital Barnea.
Barnea, thank you. Carolyn Coleman.
I'm present, thanks.
Elisa Herrera.
Present.
Heather Hoffler.
Present.
Chet Hewitt.
Present.
Eileen Jacobs. Absent. Leanne Dillon for Holly Nickel.
Here. Present.
Debbie Otto Kent.
Here.
Christine Tien.
Here.
Joshua Wood.
Here.
Thank you. And I'll also let the record show that SACOG Director Clark-Kretz is present. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynette. So I want to quickly restate some of our meeting outcomes that are also on your agenda. Hopefully you have the agenda in front of you. And so I'll try to go through this as quickly as I can. But number one, members are on the same page for the broad 2021 Race, Equity, and Inclusion Working Group outcomes in developing a racial equity statement of change and commitment, of also prioritizing racial equity for the upcoming MTP and SCS long-range plan, and build the support and direction for developing a racial equity action plan for 2022. And then two, shared understanding of the need for the racial equity actions, shared understanding of the process and the work ahead to move towards racial equity considerations in transportation, land use, and in housing. And those are what we expect to come out of this over our period of time of working together. So what I'd like to do is spend some time in introductions. And some of you might be surprised at the time that we have for introductions, but I believe strongly that getting to know each other first, since we have board members and we have public members, and I want to make a note now that everybody that we asked to be a part of this committee, every single person said yes. And so you should give yourselves a round of applause for all being willing to do this important work. And we thank you for working with us as well. So I want to get started and make sure we do introductions together and spend time to personally connect with each other. Aiko Bethia is a world-renowned leader in racial equity. And she states that anti-racist work is not transitional, it's relational. And I want all of us to build the relationships that are needed to sustain this important and difficult work that we have in front of us. This work is hard, and I could not be more grateful for each of you for joining us at the SACOG to advance the racial equity in our work. And so for introductions, I'd like each of you to share your name, your organization, and jurisdiction, and give a brief background of your work in racial equity or justice or anti-racism, and tell us why you said yes to this invitation to join the SACOG board. And because we're on Zoom, I'll start, and that way you can have a roadmap to what it is that you need to be doing. So you know, my name is Rick Jennings. I am the city council member for District 7 in the city of Sacramento. I also run a nonprofit organization called the Center for Fathers and Families that I've been doing since 1997 in the important work of fatherhood and manhood development. So why did I join this group? I joined this group because I wanted to make a difference, not only for the generation that we're in today, but for the generation that my kids and my grandkids will grow up in. And to me, I have a saying that if it's going to be, it's up to me. And so I don't point fingers, I don't look at anybody else. I look at myself to be the change, as President Obama said, that we all want to see. And so that's why I joined this work. And I think this is some of the most important work that we can do. And so I'm in it to win it. It's something that I believe in strongly. And I think I covered all the backgrounds that I asked you to cover as well. So I will now just call out names, and you can help me if I mispronounce, and you can then correct me so I can learn how to pronounce it correctly. And we'll start with our public members first. And so I'll go with Ivatal Benaya.
Thank you, Chair Jennings. Yeah, Avital Barnea. It's a pleasure to be here.
Avital.
Yes, thank you.
Gotcha.
No worries, story of my life. So I'm joining you all today from Sacramento. I work at the California State Transportation Agency, and we represent transportation stakeholders and interests all across the state at the state level. And it's really important for me to be here today, both personally and professionally. I serve as our Deputy Secretary for Transportation Planning, but I'm also our agency's equity manager. And my agency has been focusing on equity and racial equity for about the past year very strongly, and even before that. And we know that we won't have an equitable transportation system and an equitable society if that's not something that we put at the forefront. And that's also something that's very meaningful to me in my personal life. Like Rick said, you know, be the change that you want to see and look toward yourself to make the world a better place. And so that's why I'm here, and thanks so much.
Welcome. We're glad to have you. Okay, we will then move to Carolyn Coleman.
Thank you, Chair Jennings, and to all of you. So good to see you this afternoon. Carolyn Coleman, Executive Director of the League of California Cities, a statewide organization that provides advocacy and education services to city officials in all corners of our amazing state. Why did I come to this group? One, because James Corliss asked me to do that, and I often do whatever James tells me to do. He and I both go way back to our days in Washington, D.C., and it's wonderful to be able to reconnect with him in California. But beyond that, from a personal perspective, like I'm sure several of you and many of you on this call, It is 2021, and I still find myself too often the only one who looks like me in rooms. I'm committed to ending that streak and making sure that those who come behind me have the opportunities that I have. And I feel like that's something that to whom much is given, much is expected. And so I'm committed to that work. On a professional level, the League of California Cities Board of Directors committed to advancing this work in our communities across the state. And so about the very same time SACOG found itself in this space and decided to enter into the space, my organization did the same. And of course, we have a lot of overlap amongst the members between our two organizations. So I think there's some real synergy that we will be able to develop from that. And it's not only about helping the local leaders advance equity in their communities, which we are very focused on doing, but it's also about ensuring that we're a more equitable organization. And I know that you are on a SACOG on a similar path. And so I'm delighted to be joining with you in this effort and frankly, to learn from you as we go on this journey with the League of California Cities. So thank you for having me so much. Rick?
Thank you and welcome. Glad to have you. Okay, I've got Eileen Jacobs. Is she here?
I am here.
Oh, good.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm Eileen Jacobs. I'm a statewide director of litigation with California Rural Legal Assistance. We serve low-income communities throughout rural California. Many of those communities are underserved populations and well-deserved representation here and elsewhere. I've been doing housing, fair housing, and civil rights work for my entire legal career. I've been with California Rural Legal Assistance for many decades, let's say it that way. Doing this work, I was very honored to be invited to participate in this working group, and I look forward to what we will accomplish.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We are glad to have you. Okay, Elisa Herrera. Did I roll the R properly?
You did just fine. Thank you. There's a lot of R's in there. Elisa with the Latino Leadership Council. I am the executive director and founder of the organization that focuses on serving Latino populations in the Sacramento, Placerville region. And I joined this work because, as has already been stated, too many people in the rooms never look like me, and too many people are making decisions about our communities without our community's input. And I know that's important in this work, and I was very honored to be asked to join this group. So my hope is that our organization and my role in this will help to transform systems so that our communities are respected and receive the services and their needs are met in a way that they deserve. So thank you.
Thank you so much and welcome. Okay, the man, Mr. Chet Hewitt.
Chet Hewitt, President and CEO of the Sierra Health Foundation and the Center at Sierra Health. We are a regional funder, but also a statewide intermediary, working across a number of social justice, racial justice, and health equity issues. I think most recently, if you've seen our work, you've probably seen the campaign around COVID awareness, which we're doing across the state of California, and efforts to really discuss and address vaccine inequities across the state of California. Long history in social justice and equity work, lawyer by training, started at the Center of Juvenile Criminal Justice, doing criminal justice reform many years ago. I have been privileged to serve communities throughout my entire career. What brings me to this work? Well, for me, both my personal experiences as well as my professional experiences and training, lead me to understand and know that the idea of equity and inclusion is not just some utopian idea or some very pithy words that you find on paper, because inequity harms. Inequity causes families and communities to suffer economically, socially, and as the pandemic has shown, even around mortality and morbidity. That's death and sickness. So for us as a health conversion foundation and as a statewide intermediary focused on health and my own personal passions to alleviate the conditions of poverty and exclusion, this seems like an effort that I hope to be able to learn from and contribute to as we move the work forward.
Welcome, Chet Hewitt. We are glad to have you. Okay, I have next on the list, Heather Hoffler.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Heather Hoffler. I am coming here outside of my professional role as an expert in tribal affairs. In my professional capacity, though, I serve as the director of the Office of Tribal Affairs for the California Department of Social Services. Prior to that, I served under the Brown administration as the Chief Deputy Tribal Advisor. So my background is really in tribal issues, Native American impacts, and broader considerations about government to government work, and really focused on that work as a part of equity work. And I won't get into all the details, but when we're thinking about equity work in tribes, we have to think about race and unique political status as sovereign nations. So understanding that's definitely new and complicated for many folks, and happy to lend my expertise as well as learning from all of you. I'm a member of the Hoopa Valley Tribe up in Humboldt County, and I have two children who are tribal member children. My daughter is Afro-Indigenous, and I have another daughter of mixed heritage as well. And so as we're thinking about these issues and the world that we want to create for our children, for our 7 generations forward, this work is incredibly important as we think about disrupting systems that perpetuate inequities and the systems that we continue to uphold as a part of government. Incredibly important. So I would say this is my life's work, and really happy to be a part of this group and with like-minded folks who are fighting the good fight. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Heather, and welcome. Okay, how about Leanne Dillon?
Yes, thank you. This is Leanne Dillon. So great to be here. I'm standing in for my colleague, Holly Nickel, with the Public Health Institute. And Heather, your words, thank you for those. They resonate with me. I was just getting my son logged into his Zoom PE class just a moment ago in the other room with Sac City. So I'm here, and Holly was invited to be here. We facilitate the Capital Collaborative on Race and Equity through the Public Health Institute in partnership with the Strategic Growth Council. And so Heather from DSS and Avital from CalSTA, our state agency partners, we have over 30 state entities that we work with to develop and implement racial equity action plans for their organizations. And so definitely, yeah, 7 generations ahead. How are we transforming our systems? And I think metropolitan planning organizations and COGS, y'all have a really incredible role to play in communities in terms of providing data analysis that can help inform decisions from a race equity lens, and also disseminating dollars and other technical assistance. So really happy to be here today and continuing partnership with you all in this work.
Welcome. We are so glad to have you and all of your expertise as well. So thank you for being here. Debbie Otto Kent, good friend and longtime partner in the work.
Good after Friday noon, everybody. Happy to be here. I'm Debbie Otto Kent, and I'm founder and executive director of the Health Education Council. This month represents our 30th anniversary. The Health Education Council was really started to address the many health disparities that existed amongst diverse racial and ethnic groups and low socioeconomic status communities. Our work is implemented in a regional perspective. We work primarily in the 8-county region surrounding Sacramento, but also have programs that serve a broader geographic region. We do a lot of work around, what was our most preventable causes of death prior to COVID, obesity prevention, tobacco control, chronic disease management, but also more recently, in the last 5 or 6 years, have really been trying to work at the intersection of health outcomes and the real drivers of health around health and education and health and safety and violence prevention, economic well-being, and access to resources. And I think, for me, why did I agree to be a part of this group? I think we have a moment in time. And I think back about my, my education and training and background is in public health. And we have always talked about the need for policy systems and environmental change and the real underlying drivers of health outcomes. And I think the events of the last 14, 15 months have really shown a very, very, every sector in our country, the impact of a public health pandemic, a corresponding, racism pandemic, corresponding economic crisis, a mental health crisis, and all of these converging factors, I think, are coming together to really raise a different kind of awareness around what we mean by, an equitable approach to work from a variety of sectors. So I'm hopeful and excited about this opportunity to be a part of this group to make some sustaining change.
Thank you, Debbie. Appreciate you being a part of this and looking forward to our work together. Christine Tien.
Hello there. So sorry I'm pulled over, but I have to take my son to track practice. So I'm kind of I've been waiting. So I'm Christine Tiana with California Endowment. I've been at the endowment for 12 years, and I was the place program officer for Sacramento, building health communities. And so we recently reorganized, and I'm now the in the North region, and I'm the lead for inclusive community development issues. So the North region includes the Bay Area, Sacramento, and way up north. And prior to that, I was in local government for 12 years in city management. And so, I am super interested, of course, in public agencies and all the great work that they do, and just absolutely committed to seeing more racially equitable policies being adopted and integrated into all operations of public agencies. Thank you. So I'm going to be in the car, so I'll be listening, but I just won't be participating probably.
Yeah, you'll be watching some of that track meet that's going on.
Yes.
Yeah, and in the course of this conversation that we're going to have today, you may see 3 or 4 little children walk in and try to become a part of this meeting. So I got to know that it's okay for me, and I want to make sure it's okay for you as well. We want them at the table today so that they can start preparing today for tomorrow. So it's good that they're at these meetings. So, okay, the last of our public members, if my math is correct, is Joshua Wood. Joshua?
Thanks, Rick. Joshua Wood. I'm with a group called Region Business that actually, I guess I started about a decade ago. And it's a business advocacy organization that operates within the 6-county region, looking at issues ranging from development to lots of other things. As far as why did I agree to do this, I think we all know how land use, transportation, and housing have been used in the past to really perpetuate systemic racism. And I think I was excited about the opportunity to participate in a discussion that was looking at how to leverage planning in a way beneficial to diversity and inclusion long term. I think it's just an awesome goal. As far as what I've done, I've never directly participated in I think things that are dealing with race and equity and inclusion types of issues. But I've always helped my twin brother, who's a diversity vice president at San Diego State, on a lot of his research and stuff. So I've always kind of been learning as we go. So I'm just glad to be included and just glad to be able to participate.
Thank you, Joshua. We are glad to have you. And it's incredible to have a twin brother that's as talented as you are. You both have been very successful. And sometimes I get confused when I see the two of you together as to who is who. But congratulations, glad to have you. I'm happy to have all of our public members. I think you are some of the most powerful and inspiring people that I've had the opportunity to work with. So I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you. I know we all are. And so thank you for joining us and thank you for saying yes. Now let's move on to our board members. And they're also very inspiring as well, as you will see. And we will start with Jan Clark-Kretz.
Thank you, Rick. Hi, everybody. First of all, it's an incredible honor that I was chosen for this committee. I was holding my breath to see if I was actually going to be picked. I am a town council member for my hometown of Loomis, and I've lived here pretty much all my life. And as I grew up as a young kid, Loomis was a very culturally diverse town, believe it or not. And I just thought all towns were like that. And, you know, as we're coming out, and I'm 57 now, so it's been a lot of years, things have changed. It's not as culturally diverse anymore. And as I was mayor last year, and I was preparing my State of the Town address during, you know, one of the most horrible years in history, you know, with everything that was going on, I actually contacted some of our local churches, and some of our Japanese Americans founded a church here in town. And I was just really struck by the history of racism, and it's just what a horrible thing it is. And I'm, you know, want to do anything that I can possibly do to make a change, both personally and professionally. And I have to say, Joshua hit it on the head too. And I was learning how housing is really contributing to, you know, systematic racism. I, you know, it's just, I am hopeful that within this group, I can learn and help in any way that I possibly can. So thank you again for allowing me to be a part of this. It's an honor.
Thank you again and welcome. Glad to have you. I want to introduce you to the vice chair of this committee, a man who really did an incredible job last year in getting us to this point, Lucas Furich.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Rick. Really appreciate that. So Lucas Frericks, I'm the vice mayor of the city of Davis. And I was so fortunate to serve as the chair of the SACOG board last year. And as we all know, but Jan just really laid out very eloquently what a struggle 2020 was for so many and for so many reasons. After the murder of George Floyd, we felt like, sure, we needed to make a statement like many other organizations, but we felt like we really needed to do more, much more than that. And so as the chair of the board last year, and with also the then vice chair, Ricky Semayoa from Marysville, we decided to, in conjunction with SACOG's excellent staff, decided to form a race, equity, and inclusion working group, which we kicked off starting basically in July and met monthly through the rest of the year. Thankfully, Rick Jennings is the chair this year and has agreed to do that. I'm so happy that he's doing it, and all the folks who are participating here. This work, I'm a big believer in regional collaboration, firstly. Just in one quick aside, my day job, I'm the state policy director for the Nature Conservancy. I'm a lobbyist. I lobby the legislature on behalf of the Nature Conservancy. But I've been on the city council now for almost a decade, and big believer in regional work and regional collaboration across the board. And this is an issue of great importance to me. And I so appreciate that SACOG was willing to also take it on, and a lot of the board at the time last year and now of course this year is also believes it's of great importance to each of us as well. And one of the major ways I personally feel that there's even a sort of as the evolution of this process is the inclusion and of all these public members of this race, equity, and inclusion working group. I think it is a massive sort of evolutionary step from where we were even just in the past course of the past year to now. So I'm so appreciative of you all being willing to participate. I think this is exactly what has frankly been missing from this group. I think a lot of good work was already started in the racial equity audit, but also I think that last year, but I'm really inspired by all those who are joining us as external partners, and I'm so appreciative of you all joining us again this year. And as very much, and lastly, just why did I say yes to this invitation? Who can say no to Rick Jennings? So
yeah, thank you, Lucas. And to be totally honest, I only said yes because you agreed to continue as my vice chair. And so I appreciate that, because I need that institutional history, that knowledge, all the work that you've done in the past. I need that as a part of what we're doing going forward. So thank you for all that you've done in the past and what you're going to be doing in the future. So glad to have you. Okay, let me bring up Jill Gallardo.
Thank you so much. And I apologize, as I have a neighbor out there cutting some wood. So if you're hearing that buzz saw, it's not a serial killer. It's just the neighbor, pretty sure. I am so happy to be part of this group, and I'll tell you a little bit. The Gallardo family came to Rockland in 1908. Both my husbands on both sides of the family, as mother and father's side, the Gallardo and Basque family arrived here from Spain. And my father-in-law was actually born in Hawaii, where they stopped to work in the fields. And he was born in Hawaii, where they worked there. And he got here when he was 2. And Rockland, which people don't realize, was incredibly diverse. It was the Spanish families, the Irish families, Finnish families, Chinese families, and they worked so well together. And that is our history, which we really got away from as we grew. Now we're about 70,000 people. And I think it's so critically important to keep those roots going and get back to our roots somewhat. We're starting to now see some change and get back to a little more diversity. I'm really pleased with that. I also worked, my day job before I retired I was the director of transportation for the Elk Grove Unified School District. And Elk Grove, as many of you know, is about a third of Sacramento County. It's 320 square miles and incredibly diverse. And I had 250 school bus drivers and employees that reflected who my students were. And that was a huge source of pride for me. For years, we would do our potlucks every once in a while, and everybody had to bring something that represented their background. And it turned into a great competition and just an awareness. And I just think it's so important for us to pay attention, because I think for me that people just don't stop and think, because, our world, we don't have any issues, and sure we do. So I think that's why I was really excited to be part of this group again. And I look forward to the strength that we'll bring in the unity we're going to create.
Thank you, Jill. So glad to have you and all that you've done in the past and what you're going to do with us in the future. So really glad to have you as part of the group. Thank you for joining us. Okay, let me introduce to some and present to others, Mr. Lockveer Gog.
Thank you, Chair Rick. Hello, everybody. My name is Lockveer Gog. I am with City of Live Oak. I've been on the council for 9 years now. I came to this country at the age of 13. Now you're probably trying to figure out what year would that be? 1968. Not reading, speaking, or write English. It was a really difficult start for me in my life. And trying to understand the news at that time, and it was Kent State, Dr. Martin Luther King, and Robert Kennedy in the news. Trying to understand the news is very difficult. It's very, very difficult to relate to what was going on at that time from the carefree low wall that I came from, or the carefree way that I was brought up. I've had a lot of learning to do, and I'm still trying to understand what happened back then, and still not really in balance with myself. But as our communities are getting more diverse, we need race, equity, and inclusion because we all need economic prosperity, because that's what brings the bread home. By having good jobs, good roads to travel in, nice house to live in. I know there's other, you want to say something, but I got onto this group because I was asked by Mr. James Corliss, and I talked to my wife. Already had enough on my plate, but she said, that's a big honor. You better go for it. So here I am. And I believe that to see the change in others, you have to make the change in yourself first. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for those words, and thank you for being a part of this group.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to have Martha Guerrero.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. And I, as Mr. Lockyer mentioned, is very honored to be here and a part of this group. You know, I am a social worker by training, and have been, you know, my focus has been social justice. And so I've grown more and more to understand the impact of race and equity in my experience in social justice. Currently working for Los Angeles County in my full-time job, looking at all of the programs that are supposed to be there to help those that are lower income, those with mental health issues, with health issues, and all the other, you know, debilitating effects that one can experience in life as a result of poverty, and just being left behind over all these years, and the cycle of that. And seeing that these programs are not effectively equipping people to give them a chance in life. And then learning here on SACOG, on the presentation that was provided in the research, and thank you to the chair and vice chair for sticking to that, so that when I came on board, I was able to learn and understand how the lack of equity was affecting those that are just people of color and lower income. And it helped me to see how that impacted me personally, because as a, you know, Latina woman, single mom, trying to find housing, I couldn't understand why I was being turned down, and it struck a chord. And so I, you know, here in being a mayor of West Sacramento, it wasn't kind of like my vision or my dream. What really drives me is to see people that are disadvantaged be treated equitably in our community. And as a social worker, mental health provider in Sacramento, working for Turning Point for over 6 years in the Medi-Cal program, seeing how youth do not get taken seriously when it comes to their education. If youth have a disability or a mental health condition, there's a lot of roadblocks in providing support. And those roadblocks are just making it harder for those families and for those youth to be successful. So it really, I'm, driven, passionately driven to see how we can reduce those roadblocks, and so grateful to be among all of you who share that vision and interested in working collaboratively to, make sure that those that need our support, that's what we're here for, to listen to what their needs are. And that's something I will never let go, just reaching out to the community constantly and bringing that voice here so that we can eliminate those roadblocks and providing equity and support to those we are just so honored and able to serve. And so thank you for allowing me to be here, for those who made the decision, on the board. And thank you, all of you, for me being able to serve with you. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Martha, and welcome again. We are so glad to have you and all of the experience that you bring with you. Okay, next on our list is Portia Middleton.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Portia Middleton. I'm the Vice Mayor in the City of Citrus Heights. My background, it deals in housing and transportation and community development. That's what I've been doing since I was an engineer in college. I worked on, creating scholarship programs for young engineers who are of color and, might not have become engineers if not for federal funding for a grant program that I wrote. Why did I say yes? When I got elected, this past summer has been really difficult. I look at my two boys, I look at my husband, and I'm constantly concerned. I'm constantly worried about how do we create something better? Is there opportunity to do that? So when I was asked to join this group, I knew I had to be a part of it. No wasn't an answer. So I made the commitment to show up to this and say yes, and really think about what I can bring from my experience. I grew up as a military child, so diversity, equity, inclusion in the military, it looks much different than what I experienced like once my dad retired, and the systemic racism and finding off-base housing and just going through that. I remember I was in college and my parents actually were able to buy their first house, and I was a sophomore in college. And then the economic recession hit, and I didn't know that they had these giant balloon payments on their house, and they lost their home. They had their home for about, I think I was a senior in college, and they lost their home. So it's these kind of things that really get me to thinking about how do we change that system and how do we make this fair so that everyone has an equal opportunity, and it's not really based upon what you look like or where you live. And so I'm really passionate about that.
Thank you, Portia. We're so glad to have you, and so glad that you are a part of this committee and the work that we're going to do moving forward. So your voice will be heard. Thank you again so much. Okay, let me bring to the microphone Mr. Michael Saragosa.
All right, thank you, Rick. Michael Saragosa. I've been on the Placerville City Council for a little over 3 years now. My background has been in government. So I worked in the legislature for 3 different legislators, and then my last job was in the Schwarzenegger administration in a variety of different positions before my wife and I formed our own government relations and public affairs firm. And we've mostly worked in sort of the ethnic community of the color space. In fact, I know I'm so glad to see that we have a California endowment representative here. We were grantees, if you will, working in the Central Valley on behalf of the BHC and the endowment. So it's great to be able to work with the organization again in a different format. For me, Placerville, and I'm sure you've seen us in the news over the last year and a half or so on issues on race. The noose that was on our logo for about 50 years, from the 1970s till about a month ago, and really having to face those issues in a community that a large part didn't want to face any changes, and kind of under the guise of it's our history. And I think we've heard that argument around the country, over the years, and so it particularly hit home. And as a lot of you have said, Placerville is still a very Caucasian city, and so most of the time I'm the one brown person in the room, when it comes to things. But the demographics are shifting. We had an African-American candidate that came within about 20 votes of a seat in this last election cycle. So you're starting to see some change there as well. And I'm very hopeful for that. And I think, I hate to see Placerville get kind of put into a bubble when it's really more multifaceted than that, even though we are still not as diverse, but I think we're moving in that direction. And I think that's a great thing, not only for our city, but for, the Gold Country area in general. And then for me, one of the things I've always, and you'll probably hear me talking about this as we move forward in this committee, is the idea of generational wealth and bringing that into communities of color. And so I love affordable housing, and I think we need more and more of that. I also want to find a way for that affordable housing to be on a path towards home ownership, because I think that's how many people have built generational wealth, is through home ownership. And so I hate to see people just locked into being renters for life. And I think that's disproportionately affected people of color. And so whatever we can do to move that ball into a home ownership model, or lease to own, whatever it is. But I think we really have to push the ball in that direction as well. And I want to take part in that discussion. So I'm honored to be part of this, and so great to see so many private sector partners here wanting to join in on this work. So I just want to thank all of you as well. And, looking forward to working with Rick and Lucas under their leadership on this board. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And you nailed it on the head as far as real estate is concerned. And we all know, as far as generational wealth, how important real estate is as far as generational wealth is concerned. So I'm glad to have you on the board. And I also appreciate you bringing up the conversation about your wife and working with your wife. And I neglected to tell all of you that this month, my wife and I celebrated 43 years of marriage. So when you see her, and I know you all know my wife, when you see her, please tell her happy anniversary for putting up with that knucklehead for 43 years of marriage and 45 years of life. So thank you again, Michael. Okay, Jay Chenier, my brother from another mother.
Sorry, thank you, appreciate that. Jay Chenier, I'm the Vice Mayor of the City of Sacramento. Have been on the council for a little over 10 years now, and I represent in my district a lot of different types of neighborhoods, a number of which are under-resourced. So this is an important place, SACOG, for the work that we do and that I do in my own district. Like Lucas, I'm a former chair, and when I was chair a few years ago of SACOG, this issue was on my agenda. I feel like we took a small bite out of it by getting our Youth Leadership Academy up and running, where we have 40 or 50 young people, very diverse set of young people from around the region participate, including Chet Hewitt's kid a couple of years ago, did a great job. And but we didn't finish, and a year goes by pretty quickly. So I was excited about the opportunity to kind of reinvigorate myself into that work for an organization that I think is incredibly important in the region and is a leader in the region. And anything I can do and have been able to do to help make SACOG the regional leader in many areas is a success. I think also, SACOG will never be ultimately successful in what it's doing without this work. So there's a bottom line there, which is actually pretty simple for me. The other thing that's pretty simple is it's just the right thing to do. And if we want the type of communities that I want us all to live in, this is the work that needs to be done. So thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you for your service on the school board. Thank you for your service on the council. Thank you for being a man that cares about his community and is a change agent, a person that is a servant of the people. And I thank you for being our vice mayor as well. So let's go with the last board member that I'll introduce, and I appreciate his patience. He's from Elk Grove, and his name is Darren Soon.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate the intro. I also want to echo sentiments of my colleagues. Really appreciate the external partners that are on this call, and great vision to Rick, Lucas, and the board staff to recognize the need to bring in external partners. You know, for me personally, I want to build off of what Debbie said earlier about this being a unique opportunity. I believe that. I believe that this is one point in time where this region, this state, this nation is beginning to look at the issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Growing up for me, and I would venture to guess many of you, we've all had our struggles and we've overcome them, reaching the points where we are today. And that's a testament to us as individuals and the human spirit. But for me, why I'm here is learning, because it's only through this moment in time that I've been able to learn by reflection of my experiences, the things that I've had to persevere through, the things that my parents, having immigrated from China in the 1920s through Angel Island and settling in Cortland, and my mother immigrating from Hong Kong and having to come here, going through the things that she went through, that paved the way for me to, although I had my own struggles, but they were lessened because of those that have come before me. So here we are in this moment where we have a chance to make a difference in those that will come after us, as well as pave the way for things going forward, so that people after us can get to whether our spot and beyond, hopefully without as many bumps and bruises. And I think, as Jay mentioned, it's the right thing to do. So I look forward to working with all of you, continuing to learn and building additional friendships going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. So glad to have you, and so glad to be a part of what we're doing here and know the value that you bring. And I deeply appreciate you for stepping up and being committed to serve. So, and that's true of all of you. When I look at the public board members and the board members on SACOG, this is probably one of the most powerful groups that I've ever had the opportunity to work with. And, I feel that being the chair of this group, any one of us could have served in that capacity, just based on what I've seen and heard from each and every one of you. But I appreciate you putting your confidence in me and Lucas as far as our serving as the chair. But we want to make sure that you understand that we are here to serve. We are here to be change agents and servants of the people, and your servants as we move forward in this important work. I want to do some reflection and grounding for us as we enter into these meetings. I know this meeting today is scheduled, today in May. I think our next meeting will take place in August, and we'll talk more about the details of that. And then the next meeting after that will happen in November, and we'll talk more specifics about that as well. But just some reflection and grounding for us as we enter into these meetings. We're doing this work together because we care about the pressing issues of racial equity, inclusion, and justice within our society. And the work that we do is so important, not only for us today, but for those who come behind us. And we know that we need collective work across the public, private, and nonprofits, in addition to elevating the voices of the community, because, quite frankly, there is no silver bullet that can dismantle structural racism. That we also, as we move forward, have to agree to work together to grow our understanding of these issues and have fruitful, meaningful discussions in order to be able to make meaningful change. It's important for me to state that everyone here is an equal. We all bring perspectives and experiences that are valuable to our conversation and to us moving forward. And I encourage everyone to engage with their whole selves, not just one part, but everything that you have, meaning that if you aren't just a SACOG member or representative of your organization, we're all multifaceted people, and all the components that we have impact how we see and don't see the world. We ask you to bring it all to the table and know that you're in a safe place when you're doing that. These meetings are a brave and safe place. And that means that there will be times when we may not always feel safe or feel comfortable when sharing our thoughts, but we encourage you to do so. And know that you are in a safe place. And we will listen and do our best to give grace when it is needed, whether we agree or disagree with what you may say. But I want us all to embrace the concept of calling in over calling out. Calling in may feel like a call out because it will name the action, the behavior, the comments that may be inappropriate, biased, or wrong. But in tandem, we're committed to sharing information and having coachable and teachable moments. And so I want to make sure that we're in a place where we can say what we say and have conversation that is meaningful to us learning from each other, and not just this is my way or the highway. And so I'm going to stop there and just ask, is there anyone that wants to add to what I just said or has a question about what I've just expressed? And Lynette, I'm gonna need some help because I can't tell unless who's got hands up or not up.
I don't see any hands up.
Okay, that means that hopefully I said something that was important and people feel like they understood what I said. We do have another important housekeeping action that will be quick, and I'd like to bring up the Chief Legal Counsel of SACOG, Mr. Kurt Troust, and he'll brief all of us on the Brown Act, which many of us know about already, but we want to make sure all of us know about it. Kurt, take it away.
Thanks, Rick. So I think Lynette sent out this morning a brief paper on the Brown Act and the Public Records Act. And I'd like to ask you to all take the opportunity to read through that document. It's a couple of pages long, and there's a place at the bottom for you to sign your name and to send it back to Lynette. It's really important. The Brown Act and the Public Records Act are part of laws that we call sunshine laws. They're about the work of the public, the people's work being done in the public where people can see it. So when we have public meetings, we should notice them and we should allow the public to participate in those meetings. When we have documents that relate to the business of government, people should have an opportunity to look at those documents. And SACOG has made the determination that this work in particular is important work that should be done out in the open where people can participate, people can see it, people can review the work that's being done here. For the most part, this is all going to be taken care of by the staff, the SACOG staff. They'll make sure that the meetings get noticed. They'll manage the public records. They'll ensure that if there are people who want to see the documents relating to the important work of the committee, people will have a chance to look at those documents, and you won't have to worry about that. But there are things that the Brown Act and the Public Records Act will have an impact on the work of this committee. And generally a meeting of this committee is when a majority of the committee, that means 11 members, get together to talk about the work of the committee. And that's the thing we have to worry about. That's the point at which if we have 11 members getting together, talking about what the committee should do now or in the future, that could trigger a meeting under the Brown Act that we have an obligation to notice and allow the public to participate in. So in light of that, I think there are 5 things that I'd like you to remember from our discussion today. The first one is that meetings can be conversations or emails. So if you talk to someone about the work of the committee, you talk to one person, if you end up talking to 10 different people, that's a meeting, even though it was through an individual conversation that you had. That's called a hub and spoke. So if you as an individual talk to 10 different people about the work that's going on in the committee, that could trigger a meeting under the Brown Act. If you talk to someone and that person talks to another person and that person talks to another one, that's called a daisy chain. And if 11 of you talk about the work of the committee, that could be a meeting under the Brown Act as well. And so we want you to be careful about that. But it can also be emails. If you emailed 10 other people on the committee about the work of the committee, that could constitute a meeting under the Brown Act. And we need to be careful about that because we'd have to notice that. So I would caution you against that. The second thing I'd like you to remember is if you get an email from a member of the committee that goes out to the entire committee, do not reply all. Then you start a conversation among all the members of the committee, and that could constitute a meeting under the Brown Act. The third thing is not to discuss the work of the committee on social media. You may want to post something saying that you're involved in this committee, saying that it's important, sending out a social media post that there's going to be a meeting of the committee. And that's okay, but you shouldn't talk about the work of the committee because there have been recent cases in California that have held that such social media conversations constitute meetings under the Brown Act, and they have to be posted as such. So please don't do that. The fourth thing, I know you all do this, but it's good when a lawyer reminds you to be thoughtful about your writings regarding the committee. Everything that you write that relates to the work of this committee is potentially a disclosable document under the Public Records Act. So think about what you're writing about this work and make sure that you're happy that if that writing were published on the front page of the Sacramento Bee, that you would be okay with people hearing what you had to say about it. So be thoughtful about your writings. And finally, my phone number and email is on the communication that Lynette sent out. And my final message is that I am available to you whenever you need me. If you have a question about saying something or how you're meeting with people or what you're saying or how the Brown Act and Public Records Act are interpreted, I'm happy to talk to you at any time personally about that and to make sure that the work that you're doing is kept at a high level and that we're making the communications we want to make about the work of the committee. So with that, Rick, I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, happy to talk to you individually offline, but happy to answer any questions you may have right now. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Kurt. Are there any questions for Kurt right now that you want answered or clarified? Great. I don't see anybody.
Rick, did Kurt say what a quorum? What's the number on a quorum on this?
Yeah, there are 20 members on the committee, so a quorum or a majority would be 11 members, and that's what you have to be careful about.
Thank you.
So I know Kurt well, and when he says that he's available at any point in time, just give him a call. Please take advantage of that. When he's an incredible man and has a lot of capacity and a lot of knowledge. And so please call him if there are any questions at all moving forward, because we do not ever want to violate the Brown Act. So thank you, Kurt. Next, we will turn the meeting over to the SACOG Executive Director, one of the most incredible men that I know to lead such a powerful organization. And he does a great job. And James Corliss is going to give us some context on how we got here today, why we are here, and where we are going, and in the end, what will success look like? James, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Chair Jennings. I think you're going to help on the success piece, like with everybody else, right?
Exactly.
So thanks, everybody. It's I just want to say I am humbled to be in a group like this, and I'm excited to have all of our public members, our stakeholders. Thank you all for saying yes. You've heard that from some of our board members. I just want to reiterate that. So my job is just to give you a little bit of sense of where we've been recently on this journey, where we are today, and where we're going, to put some context around this, to hopefully kind of answer the question, which I think many of you have already answered yourselves, but why am I here, and what's my role? How can I help? and what's SACOG doing, and how can we be better? So I joined this organization 4 years ago as executive director. We soon thereafter commissioned some work by the Brookings Institution. Actually, Director Chenier was, I think, chair back then, and we worked very closely with a lot of our economic partners. And we had Brookings Institution come in and do basically an analysis of our economy, of our inclusion, of our equity metrics. And what I learned very quickly in that first year here in Sacramento in this region is we are obviously one of the most diverse regions in California and the nation. We're also one of the most divided by race and ethnicity. If you look at our outcomes on our key indicators by race, ethnicity, and we have some of that in your background materials that we've sent you, it's stark. And I think many of you know that, and that's why you're here. But part of what we are trying to accomplish is to narrow those gaps, is to narrow that divide, to not have race and ethnicity be the determining factor of your success in life, and to do what we can to mitigate and eliminate racism in our culture, in this region, in our institutions, because it's wrong, it holds us back, and it's present every day. That Brookings report 3 years ago, I think, really set us on this path around kind of economic inclusion and prosperity. Vice Chair Frericks gave you a little bit of a sense under his leadership last year, of course, during the pandemic, and then we had the murder of George Floyd. And like many other institutions and agencies, we put out a statement about that. And as you heard Director Frericks say, we did not want to just issue a statement and be done. I will reflect, I think, again, since I've been here the last 4 years, we're maybe one of the most racially diverse places around in regions. We don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. In the government sector, we rarely talk about it. There almost is a culture of politeness, that's an issue you don't touch. It's impolite to bring it up. It's uncomfortable to bring it up. And I think you all understand, but we certainly want to get to a place in our agency, with our board, in our region, with our partners, where we can't not bring it up. We can't not be intentional about tackling racism and structural racism and racial disparities, because we believe we will not be successful if we don't do that. That is why we want to be intentional about race. And so many times you'll probably hear us say equity, and it is very important for us, and we are learning. I think I've told many of you I've talked to, we are on step one here, but we are really trying to keep race and ethnicity front and center in this, while we know there's really important issues of intersectionality, really important critical issues around income and income disparities and wealth disparities, disparities by ability, gender, but we're really trying to lead with race and keep race front and center. You saw in your materials, or which I hope you've had a chance to absorb and read through, under Chair Frericks' leadership last year, after we issued the statement about the murder of George Floyd and so many other Black men and women, we started a race equity inclusion working group. That was actually a working group of our board of directors, just solely our board of directors. They met from August through December. It was pretty quick and frequent monthly meetings. We commissioned a racial equity audit that is in your packet, that I will say was not without some controversy when that was released and published. And then the staff developed a racial equity framework. And we really ended last calendar year with that racial equity framework, again, that is in your materials, which really sets a very high level set of a vision and a set of guardrails for how we're moving forward. We're taking that framework and we're pulling it through into this year. If you don't know, we have a 31-member board of directors at SACOG. As of January, we have 12 brand new members. I'm happy to say many of them on this call today and on this working group, which is wonderful to see. But a big turnover, the biggest turnover of the board that I've had in my tenure. So we start this year anew. So that's a little bit of a quick version of where we were and where we've come from in the last year. And I want to talk a little bit now about just moving forward. Are there any questions on the where we have come, the recent history? So one thing I will, because it's always important when we begin this work as an agency, you have a committee chart that's also in your packet. I want you just to maybe pull that back up, and we'll have a chance to also answer questions around the committee charge. That is a protocol that we often use. That really sort of sets, again, the in motion exactly what this committee is trying to accomplish. But I want to echo what Chair Jennings said in terms of where we're going. Honestly, and I've said this to many folks, in some ways on the many challenges of this work is we're not completely sure where we're going or what success looks like. That's why we need your help. So I want to be very honest. We do not have a clear sense of, other than race is no longer a factor in determining your outcomes in life across all kinds of indicators. Other than that, our steps to get there, we're building them as we fly. We are building them with you. But three things in particular, to echo Chair Jennings, the top of the meeting, and because I think it's always good to at least begin this work and begin these kind of working groups with explicit outcomes. A statement around racial equity, that we, an intent and commitment that we want the board to adopt this calendar year, leading up to a racial equity action plan in 2022 that we want the board to adopt. And then finally, integrating racial equity and leading with racial equity in our long-range transportation plan. Chair Jennings mentioned this acronym, MTPSCS, and please call us out on the acronyms as well as everything else. Metropolitan Transportation Plan, Sustainable Communities. That is the key guiding document. All the regions in California develop these, really all of the regional agencies around the country develop these. We want to know and try to ask the question, what does it look like to really center and lead with racial equity in that long-range plan? We do not have all those answers yet. I want to be very clear with you, but we want to explore them with you and with your help. And then I think finally, I would just say, we don't know what we don't know. We do know that we have to enter this work with humility. There was a lot of desire last summer and the beginning of this equity working group last fall to move quickly. We're trying to slow that down a little bit, to be methodical, but to not give up. And I would finally just say that I think part of the role of SACOG in this agency is to take risks and to do things outside a bit maybe of the comfort zone of typical public agencies. And that is all about, I think, also exhibiting leadership, not just that we can figure this out and be some model or win an award. That's not really why we're here. But I do think many of you understand, I believe we have a real platform as an agency. I think we have real value added for our elected officials on our board. I think we have many of our elected officials who are just already incredible community leaders and sometimes want to go on to higher office and serve either in higher office or in other community roles. And I fully believe that we have a ton of potential opportunity around race, equity, inclusion, anti-racism, but we do not have all the answers. So thank you for being part of this and for giving your time. And I think with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about where we've been and where we're going.
Anything, Lynette?
I'll turn it back to you, Rick.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, James. I think that was very powerful. And I appreciate your comments. I want to kind of add just a little bit to what you said, because at my age right now, at the current point, my dad is 95 and he had me when he was 27. That makes me 68. And just between you and me, I never thought I'd make 68. I never thought that growing up in Washington, D.C., that I would see this kind of tenure in my life. But I'm here and I'm at 68 and I have a sense of urgency. I have a sense of urgency of knowing that I have a limited amount of time to be able to make the impact that I want to make. I almost feel like I'm preaching to the choir in a sense, because I know some of you feel the exact same way. If we don't narrow that divide, if we don't have an urgency to do this work in race, equity, and inclusion, if we don't mitigate and eliminate racism, then we actually pass this on to the next generation. And I don't have a desire to do that. And I know you don't either. And so there are some things that we all have to do to make sure that this work is something that others can learn from. And the reason that I wanted SACOG to lead the effort is because a lot of people look to SACOG as a leader in the industry. And if they can get the model out there, a model of an action plan, others will follow and they will build on that action plan and make it better. And so my sense of urgency is that we can't move fast enough because we've watched too much in the past that has been harmful to those who we love the most. And so I just want to, all of us, as we go through this next exercise, to really talk about what does success look like? If I could ask you to tell me, in your opinion, based on the conversation that we've had and who you are and what you've experienced and everything that you've done, in one word, what does success for this working group look like to you? And in addition to that one word, if you could explain to me why you chose that word. And what I'd like the staff to do is I'd like them to start building a foundation of the words that we give them. That word that you give them. And maybe it's not in a word, maybe it's in a short phrase, you know, that actually is a complete sentence. So I don't care how you do it. I don't want to limit you. I don't want a paragraph, but in a word or a short sentence, what is the one word or one thought that defines success for this working group? And why did you choose that word or that statement? So I want to open it up to everybody. Just put up your hands, or if nobody's talking, just blurt it out, and we'll just start going from that thing. And hopefully we've said enough that word just resonate and is coming to the top right now. Like you got it. It's on the tip of your tongue. You can feel it. You're sitting on the edge of your seat. You're moving forward like some of you I see out there doing right now. Oh, the hands are going up. Let me shut up and let me go ahead. Okay, Carolyn, let's go first. You go first. And
I'm happy
then,
to start
Leanne,
before I forget the word. The word that comes to mind for me is normalize. And I think we have a unique opportunity as a working group to say the uncomfortable, to talk about what's uncomfortable, and be able to normalize that conversation in a way that we will serve as a model for others. I mean, I'm so proud of the local officials who are on this call today, because I know that you all are having these conversations or being looked to have these conversations in your own communities. And so selfishly, Rick, I use the word normalize. And I think it was James who brought it up earlier. I have only lived in California for 4 years, and certainly, I've spent a lot of time explaining California to folks who don't live here, but they have an expectation that we are having these conversations, that we do know how to have these conversations, because we are a model for the rest of the country. But one of the things I've discovered is that we are polite, we are nice. It's hard to have the hard conversations amongst ourselves, and even in some cases amongst our closest friends. And so I think one of the most important things that this working group will do is, if we're going to affect change and change policy, then we got to figure out how to have the conversations with each other to talk about what's going on. So normalize is the word for me.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. Darren, what you got? What you got, Darren?
Thanks, Rick. Well, I'm glad that the word about the hard conversations was mentioned, because I know my colleagues know I've been saying that for a while too. But for me, the word that I define success for all of us is maybe this resonates with you, Rick. Even playing field. You know, if I want to pull a sports analogy in there, because I think everybody just wants a fair shot, you know, but it's very difficult for some to have that fair shot when, you know, I'm gonna throw out a bunch of things in here, but like, you know, the Maslow's principles, that people are trying to worry about food on the table or, you know, their safety, how are they expected to be able to concentrate on school or work, and other things that are you know, don't enable them to whether it's go to school or do the extra work to succeed in their jobs. So, and I say this also with the context of there is a large community out there that don't agree with this effort, that would say, you know, might argue that it's just trying to flip the things around and basically, you know, take power from others. But, you know, I would argue that, look, and they, you know, you might have heard the words reverse discrimination. And I'm going to say, look, any word with discrimination there is wrong, period. So it's not about setting up a system that is better for one party over another. It's about so everybody, getting back to the equity piece, everybody can be given an equal chance to succeed, making that playing field even. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Avatar, what you got?
Hey, the word for me would be understanding. I was so encouraged to hear all of your stories about your different lived experiences and the communities that you represent. And I think if we all had a better understanding of where different people are coming from, you know, as public servants, many of us, you know, we will do better for our communities, we'll do better for this working group. And when I introduced myself, I went first after Rick, and I feel like maybe I should have shared a little bit more of my public story after hearing, or my personal story, excuse me, after hearing some of yours. And so I just want to take a moment to tell you a little bit about that. I am the child of an immigrant. My father is an immigrant, so first generation on one side of my family. And my grandparents were Holocaust refugees, and I've experienced anti-Semitism in my lifetime, including vandalism to my home. So I have that personal experience, but yet I know when you look at me that I'm white, and I, you know, appear to the stranger to have those white privileges, and I know that, and I understand that. And so, you know, I bring my own lived experience, but I also understand the experiences that I have from how I present publicly. And so I just wanted to share that with you all, with, you know, some of the stories that you shared about yourselves. And again, you know, just having this understanding about what we've been through and who we represent and what we know, I think will be really helpful as we go through this work.
Thank you so much. I like that understanding. All right, Michael Saragosa, talk to me.
All right, I had 2 words really, and that was unity and progress. Unity in the sense that, and I think Darren touched on this, you know, this wasn't an idea, the REI committee, that was sort of universally embraced, I think, on SACOG. And so to the extent that we can get all of our colleagues to a point where everyone sees this as a good thing for our area and for our region and for the people that live in it, I think it's a big step, so that as we move forward, we are talking with one voice, hopefully. So I think unity is a big thing for me. And then progress in the sense that, you know, when you have these committees, you know, a lot of times, especially with politicians, for you know, form a committee, and you know, and that's, and then it, there's a report and it goes on the shelf and it's a nice, a nice report, but it never actually goes somewhere. So from my perspective, progress. So, and whatever that looks like, does that mean we're narrowing the gap on housing affordability for people of color? That we bring more equity to our transportation plan, whatever that looks like. But I think we have to have a progress, something that we can measure, as we move forward, and realizing that this is there's some short-term things, but this is also a long-term plan here. I mean, we're not going to solve this overnight. And I think we have to take our victories as we go along. But so those would be my two things: unity and progress.
Thank you, Michael. All right, so I got Portia next, Leanne after that, and then Martha, and then Chet Hewitt. I got 4 of you so far. So then I'll add on to that afterwards. So Leanne, you're up.
No, I think Portia is next.
I'm sorry, Portia, and then Leanne.
Awesome. My word is transformative. And just by listening to the stories and listening to the perspectives on this call, I know that all of us are going to walk out here with a bigger range of tools and understanding to be able to talk to our colleagues, to talk to the people in our organizations about the importance of the work that we're doing and why it's important and how the impact it's going to have. So if we can walk out of this and we have a consensus of being transformative and being thought leaders. Ooh, I think that's 3 words. I'm going to stop there in case I'm taking people's words.
I like that. I like that. I like that. Okay. Who'd you tell me was next?
I think I'm next, Rick, and I'm sorry.
Leanne's next. I got you.
This is Leanne. Avatal, thank you for sharing your story. That was really moving and powerful. Thank you for that. My word is liberation. This work, when you do it, you get yourself free and we all can get free. And so I really appreciated, James, your reflections on that, like, we don't know what this will look like. We haven't done this before. So true. This is creative work. This is transformative work. Thank you, Portia. And so, we'll get there together. I also wanted to say, I was thinking, as many of you were sharing, and I know Holly's going to be on this group, but we're kind of a group package. We come together places. I do work outside of my professional work, organizing white folks around anti-racism work. And so in some of what I was hearing, I have a lot of thoughts around that group in particular and bringing them into this work, calling them in. Thank you.
Thank you. Martha, we're waiting to hear what you got.
Thank you, Rick. The word I have is access. And given the number of years that I've experienced seeing people not have the access to what I see others having, the privilege of having it, quality education, access to immediate healthcare, mental health, substance abuse treatment for those that just don't have it, they continue to linger and suffer. So I find myself impatient waiting and want to see access immediately. And so that's the word that comes to mind.
Thank you so much. I like that. Chet Hewitt, what you got?
Several of my words were taken, but the next one that comes to mind for me is reconciliation. Reconciliation is, the meaning is the kind of an end of some level or form of estrangement. And it's the action of making one view or belief compatible with another. So maybe 2 words: reconciliation for progress, as a phrase from myself. And I say that because one of the things that makes this conversation very hard is that we don't like to discuss the history of what got us to this particular point. And I know from all the social justice work that I am involved in, that level of healing that takes place when people take ownership for some of those original sins is what frees us up to think about a more prosperous future.
It's powerful, Chet. That's very powerful. Thank you so much. Okay, I got Jan Clark Kretz.
Okay, so Michael took my words of unity and progress, but I believe my word is welcoming. I want to see our region be more welcoming. I'd like to see my town be more welcoming. I'd like to see our history that we need to discuss be more welcoming. I think that we need to have more welcoming conversation. It's I've heard this all this afternoon, and it's so true. We can't even talk about it, and I just wish that we could make it a more welcoming everything about it.
Fantastic. Let's keep it going. Elisa, I think you're up.
Thank you. My word is transparency. And it's transparency because I know that we're governed by the Brown Act, and many of us are. However, there continues to be side meetings and side conversations that allow powers that be to continue to displace communities of color and poor communities and allow pollution in those communities without any repercussions. So we want to be able to be transparent in everywhere. And if we're transparent here, maybe that will influence others to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we got Eileen, then Lucas, and then Jill. You guys keep putting your hands up. Come on, we're gonna get this done today. We're gonna build this house.
Thank you. My 2 words for the moment are patience and impatience. One, I think I need to be patient with others and listen to their views and not expect that they're always the same as mine. The other is impatience, as I always have, to make progress and to get the job done.
Thank you very much. You and I are on the same page as far as those 2 words. So you stole my words, but that's okay. Lucas, give me what you got.
I would just add in a lot of great words so far, but one thing that really I would love to see as a result of this is replicable. So I think that there's a real ability for this work to serve as a model for others, especially the other regional work that's happening. We know we had as part of the discussion of this group last year, we did have some conversations with the folks down in Los Angeles, and they're doing some similar work, but most other parts, even in California, at the Council of Government levels, are not doing this work yet. And so I would love for this to serve as a model for others. So replicable.
I like that. I like that. Okay, Jill, you're next.
All right. My word is awareness. I think it's just so important. I love what you did with the intro today so that we all got to learn a little bit more about each other, because I think we see people and we have assumptions and on how people got where they got. And I think awareness of everybody's backgrounds is really, really helpful. I tell you, one of my favorite things that I look at, my mother-in-law was very successful with a restaurant, and she had the daily special, cook the pies, open 7 days a week, work their tails off, but she couldn't belong to the Chamber of Commerce because there were only men involved at the Chamber of Commerce. So she started the service organization called the Chambermaids. I'm sorry to say that's really what they called themselves. So they had the Chambermaids, and I still have some of her little pins that are a chamber pot button you wore. And they worked their tails off and did a great job doing chamber. And this is late 60s, early 70s, where our chamber was still a man-only organization. And as mayor of Rockland, I'm really proud, but I am also the only person, the only female on the city council in Rockland. And so I think it's just really cool to look at all the different issues that we have from people as we're looking at inclusion and just taking the time to stop and think and be more aware of why it's different for some of us.
Thank you so much, Jill. Carolyn, you got your hand up.
You know what it is? It's Friday afternoon. I should be done already for the week. But just another thought that comes to mind here is the word recognition. And I'm thinking about a greater recognition that with this work, just because it leads to more equitable outcomes for some, it's not a zero-sum game. I mean, I think sometimes folks believe, and they when race comes up or ethnicity comes up, they think if we build more equitable communities and apply a lens of equity to the work that we do, it's going to mean that somebody else isn't going to get theirs. And this work isn't about zero sum. It's about greater opportunity for everyone.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Debbie. Debbie Otto Kent.
Yes, great words, great discussion. I would say I am hoping, I mean, success for me looks like sustained change. So sustainable.
Sustainable. I like it. Sustainable. Who am I missing? Who am I missing? I got some incredible words. I got a house that's being built. I'm gonna show it to you in a minute. I just want to make sure
I'm ready to
I got
go.
everybody. You got one?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You go.
Me? Okay. Well, thank you.
Yes, yes,
I
sir.
believe that discrimination is kind of heartbreaking. It's not our difference that it's not our difference that divides us. It is our inability to understand others. My word is love for the day, is we need to spread more love than hate in this world. For what my ancestors went through, they were looking for jobs and they found a place that were hiring. They went over there and they had a sign there says, no Indian could apply for the position. They went through real tough time, but we're still here and we're fighting for equity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for bringing up love. That's very powerful to me, and I know to others as well. So thank you. Whose hand is up? No hands up? Okay, this house is all built. Who?
This
Heather?
is Heather.
Okay.
Yeah, hi. Hi, I was picking up my daughter, so I've been just listening and she's been listening too. I would say I agreed with almost all of the words and I'm like, that was what I thought. That's what I thought. And I think at the end, and maybe I missed it, but I'm looking for action steps. I think that talking about it is incredibly important, understanding, knowledge building, but for credibility and communities of color, for people who have experienced marginalization and all of the things we've talked about today, we have to have action. They can't be words. There has to be commitment to action steps.
Totally agree. Totally agree. They say be careful of your thoughts because they'll become your words will become your actions will turn into your habits will define your character, and your character will determine your destiny. So those action steps will take you to your destiny. So I totally agree on the action that we all have to move forward. Anybody else? If there's nobody else, I'm gonna give you mine. So I'm gonna give you a book. All right. So mine today is fulfilled and happy. I'm working with a group that I know we can really create the change that we want to see for this generation and for future generations. And so I am fulfilled and I am happy, almost to the point that I'm emotional. So it's a good day. And I am happy to be a part of it and happy to work with each one of you as we affect the change that we all know we want to see. So I love your words. Staff, do we have that house that we built so far? What we look like so far? Oh, look at you. Look at you. All right now. I like that. Normalize, even playing field, understanding, unity, progress, patience. Okay, replicable, welcoming. All right, we're going to keep building this house. We're going to keep building it. We're going to build it to the point where when we finish building it, we're going to put it in a frame so you'll have it to know that we've made a difference in the action plan that we are developing. You can take it down now. So I want to thank you on behalf of the SACOG board and staff, and thank you for having the courage to step into this space. And thank you because I know that none of you have free time. All of you are type A personalities and you don't have free time, but you showed up and you showed out and you have energized and inspired our work here at SACOG. And I just want to thank you for that. We will be summarizing this meeting for SACOG's Policy and Innovation Committee. We will have this go to the full board as well. And it's important that for I and my colleagues, that we are conduits, if I can say that word right, to the full board. Our next meeting for this committee, James, am I correct? And it's going to be August the what?
27th, August 27th, and November 19th.
So if you can mark that down on your calendar now, because I know how busy you are. If I don't get on your calendar months in advance, I know I might not be able to get on there. But if we get on there now, you may prioritize this as a very important meeting based on how much you enjoyed the meeting today, right? And so once again, it's August the 27th, is that correct? And November the 19th?
Correct.
Good, good. And so I know at our next meeting, the staff will create an outline for that meeting and the content and the outcomes. They will put that meeting together based on what has been said today and what we need to plan to do at the next meeting and next agenda. So I've asked the staff to provide this working group with additional readings and opportunities for gathering and other conversations. So please look at your emails for things from the staff that will be important for you to read so we can all do this work and do it a whole lot better. And so before we adjourn, I'm going to ask if there are any additional questions or comments. And I see 2 hands raised. So Jill, I'm going to let you go first. And then I got to see who the other hand is.
Are we doing the meetings on August 27th and same time, 1 to 3?
1 o'clock is my understanding. Is that correct, James?
Yes, 1 to 3. We're same time.
Okay.
I apologize. Can you give me the second date one more time?
November the 19th at 1 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Got her. Thank you.
Okay. And was there another hand that's up that I can see 2 hands up, but I can't see who else? Oh, okay, God, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say thank you very much for showing your true self, you know, your emotional side of you. That is really important, because I thought I was the only one that a lot of time I go to places and I've got to speak and I'll start crying first before I could say a word. But you bringing that out, it just kind of really makes me feel really super good inside to know that I'm in a company that is a very good future for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Kurt, I know you got something housekeeping that you got to help us with here, because we got public comment.
Yeah, that's right. Consistent with everything the committee has said today and appropriate to SACOG's approach to this work, we should ask for public comment.
Okay. So we will ask for public comment on are these on matters not on the agenda or matters on the agenda?
Either or.
Okay, so I will ask for public comment on matters on the agenda as well as matters not on the agenda at this time.
Chair Jennings, I have no public comment.
That is fantastic. Okay, are there anything else we have from this group before we adjourn? We know the next time that we will come together. Debbie, you still got your hand up?
I do, sorry.
Okay.
And I know everybody wants to end this meeting. When I saw the bricks though, can I just add one more word? Because when I kind of heard the formation of the group, it sounds like kind of a combined board member community, you know, formal committee is not kind of the standard course of business for SACOG. And so I'd like to add on that brick wall, you know, continued engagement. I think an outcome of really, you know, kind of moving forward with robust community engagement. And this is an example of that, would be a really, you know, would mean success for me.
That's good. Great, 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 great. So I'll close it out with this final statement. If you were on the meeting early, you heard a few of us, Michael Saragosa and I, talking about the Raiders and what kind of record they may have and the last time they won a Super Bowl and all those kind of things. And I don't know that many of you know that I used to play for the Raiders, and I won a Super Bowl with them in 1976. We lost one game that year. It was the greatest team that I had ever been a part of. And for me, team is everything. Together, everyone achieves more. Team is everything. I don't do anything by myself, and I don't think I can be successful by myself. But I do believe that when I'm with a great team, like the one I'm looking at right now, we can be incredibly successful, and we can win our own Super Bowl, especially as it relates to race, injustice, equity, and inclusion. We can win our own Super Bowl. And so that's what I'm after. I want to work with a winning team like this. And in the end, I want us to walk away as champions. And so that's what I will do. I'll do everything I can to do my part to make sure that that happens for our team. And I know I can count on you as well. So thank you so much for being a part of this. I'm looking forward to our next meeting. If you come up with additional words to build our house, just send them to me. Just send them to me and I'll make sure they get to the SACOG staff. Like, you know, if you don't have my cell number, it's 916-752-3608, 916-752-3608. Send me the words and I'll get them there and we'll build this house. When it's all said and done, it'll be something that we can put on our desk in our office and see that we were involved in this work that's making change for all the people that we love so much. Thank you so much and have a great, incredibly great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much, all.